When starting up, every business seeks profitability as its main aim. However, it is important that this profit comes through ethically acceptable ways and must meet the legal requirements pertaining to the country that it operates from. The reason for this is that the business becomes part of the society and thus will affect it in both negative and positive ways. A business acquires their corporate social responsibility by operating effectively and generating profit in a moral way by considering stakeholders like employees, environment, consumers, shareholders, government, and the community on the whole. This will ultimately have an impact on the organization's reputation and thus long-term success of the company. The government, on the other hand, plays a role in regulating these businesses to protect and maintain stability within the economy, which will in turn help businesses grow further and thus be a part of the society. A drug named Risperdal, which is used to treat schizophrenia, was one of the most successful medicines produced by Johnson & Johnson. The company and its subsidiary, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, marketed the drug for off-label uses such as to treat children suffering from autism and ADHD and elderly patients diagnosed with dementia. They also withheld information about its severe health risks involved when consumed. The Federal Drug Administration, or FDA, had warned the company against this at least 3 times over the course of the deceptive marketing strategies, but the company did not discontinue its practice as it has invested a lot of money in the program. However, several lawsuits and whistleblowers led to the company facing the consequences of breaching the ethics of consumption, which is broadly defined as the consumer choices that are made based on one's personal ethical view. During the year 1886, 3 brothers, Robert Wood, James Wood, and Edward Mean Johnson in New Jersey, founded the company Johnson & Johnson. It specializes in 3 different segments of the medical industry, including consumer healthcare, medical devices, and pharmaceuticals, and operate globally over 60 countries, employing more than 100,000 employees. The Robert Wood constructed our credo that states the company's ethical code of conduct, which is summarized as putting the needs and well-being of the people we serve first. The study conducted by Janssen in 2003 included 2 tables linking the drugs used to elevated prolactin levels, which can cause gynecomastia, breast development, and other side effects in boys like osteoplegia. However, those tables never made it to the published version of the study or the FDA. In fact, the data in the missing tables showed that the drug was likely associated with the side effects, and the only time the drug had a positive effect on the children was when there were abnormal prolactin levels in the blood. Furthermore, a study found that half of all the boys taking Risperdal developed gynecomastia compared to 1/5 of the boys taking other antipsychotic drugs that have increased prolactin levels. Brian King, a member of the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, stated that it was disheartening on many levels and that there is no difference between withholding something in a deliberate attempt to influence the findings and just making it up. The trial between Pledger and J&J was the first of the thousands of Risperdal lawsuits to face a jury. During the trial, the plaintiff's attorney produced evidence of the hidden data, but a J&J biochemist testified the FDA never saw the data. A spokesperson for Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Robin Friend, said that the company acted responsibly regarding informing physicians and patients about the risks and the benefits of Risperdal. However, in 2013, J&J settled a lawsuit brought by the U.S. Department of Justice for $2.2 billion for illegally promoting Risperdal from 1999 to 2005, revealing that the drug side effects were not well established in the medical community at the time. The FDA approved Risperdal to treat autism in children in 2006, that is 3 years after the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry published the controversial study. Also, the drug's current label finally includes the warning about the risk of gynecomastia in boys. The following clip gives an insight on the process of this illegal marketing strategy.
The way it should work is sales representatives are not supposed to, for a drug manufacturer, give anything to a doctor for what is called an off-label use. And while a doctor can prescribe a medicine for anything, the FDA only approves drugs for very certain limited uses.
Right.
So if a sales rep had gone into a doctor's office in Philadelphia in October of 2005 and given the doctor something on child and adolescence, that was against the law. If the doctor asks for it then he's permitted to give it to it.
So the sales rep could physically have a piece of paper.
He could carry it around.
He could carry it in 2003, 2004, 2005. He could carry it around, show it, as long as he doesn't give it.
And they were provided
right?
with these.
Yes. And the sad part of it is, who knows what takes place in that doctor's office? You're not tape recording.
Now, some of your whistleblowers, have you had people come forward who were sales reps?
Yes.
And said, these are the documents they gave us.
Why else would the drug manufacturer give a sales representative something that talks about a child and adolescent study when it's not approved for child and adolescent, unless they want that sales rep to give it to the doctor?
No.
The primary stakeholders are Johnson & Johnson, its subsidiary Janssen Pharmaceuticals, the patients and the doctors. On the other hand, the secondary stakeholders are the families of the patients. At the first instance, the company and the doctors are violating the trust of the patients by exploiting such vulnerable groups by misleading them using these deceptive marketing strategies. Due to this act, patients are now suffering from greater health risks such as gynecomastia, which is a medical term for breast tissue development in males, while females suffer from premature development, leading to emotional trauma for the children. Diabetes for both elderly and the children, irreversible movement disorders like restlessness, inability to move, abnormal movement of facial features and limbs, tremors that are all similar conditions as seen in patients with Parkinson's. High mortality in elderly dementia patients due to increase in cardiac failures, pneumonia, and stroke depending on the dosage of the medicine. The company is breaching their own code of ethics or their credo by gaining profits on the expense of these patients. Physicians and others in the medical community are being misled by the incomplete information given to them about the product, while the doctors, who are aware of the negative impacts, are breaching their medical oath. In the long run, multiple personal injury lawsuits were filed on both Janssen and J&J, and the plaintiffs like Austin Pledger and Sam Wilson had to endure surgery to correct the condition, costing them money and more emotional and physical strain. Some are also uncertain about their well-being in the future to lead a life that is accepted by the norms regarding implications of having a family and so on. Till date, the company as well as the pharmaceutical industry is impacted by the negative publicity brought on by the act. In fact, journalist Steve Brill wrote an expose uncovering the scandal and J&J's involvement, titling it as America's Most Admired Lawbreaker. The lawsuits incurred the company billions of dollars, with the whistleblowers collectively earning around $167 million. Currently, greater protocols have been imposed on the corporation as the Department of Justice continues to inspect J&J practices regarding labeling and handling of risk concerns. Also, in addition to the settlement, the company agreed to a 5-year corporate integrity contract with the General of the Department of Health and Human Services. The pharmaceutical industry was affected too because drug and medical device owners are now required to publicly disclose any money paid to doctors to make patients aware of potential conflicts of interest that may affect their health, aligning the industry with the Affordable Care Act. This case can be dealt with certain actions. The FDA and other regulatory authorities should maintain a strict control over Johnson & Johnson and its subsidiaries to ensure the safety of the patients and the confidence in the pharmaceutical industry that are affected by the corrupt practices of the company. The company should consider restructuring of the organization and its corporate culture instead of promoting such unethical behavior across all levels of employees, starting from the top levels. Their credo should also be revised and reinstated by the company by communicating it to all levels of management to shift the focus from profitability to CSR. In conclusion, through the case of J&J and its marketing of Risperdal, the importance and consequences of unethical business practices, especially those that are related to consumption itself, are highlighted. This therefore reinstates the focal point that responsible businesses are those that conduct its operations while considering the impacts on all its stakeholders and not just the entity, like J&J failed to do so, because the entity becomes a part of the society.